Morning, everyone, and thank you for joining How to Trade Forex on the Non-Farm Employment Change Report. My name is Gail Mercer, and I will be your hostess this morning. Now, before we get started, I would like everyone to take a moment to read over the Nadex risk disclaimer. You really need to remember that any type of trading, including binary options, can produce losses. So you should not trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. Now, for those of you that do not know me, again, my name is Gail Mercer, and I've been trading for more than 15 years. Now, I started out with a company that programmed indicators and really just fell in love with the price bar. I thought it was really cool that we could see the market move each minute of the day. Now, I do specialize in price action, volume analysis, and divergence simply because I believe they are leading indicators. I'm also a frequent contributor to Stocks and Commodities magazine, Traders World, and Top Shelf. I've also been a speaker at Traders Expo, Traders World Online Expo, and the Wyckoff Volume Conference. I'm also the author of Trading Nadex Binary Options, Keeping It Simple Strategies, The New Trader's Guide to Trading Nadex Binary Options and Spreads, and my latest book, which is Trading Nadex Binary Options Using Currencies. Now, when trading binary options and spreads, remember, it's all about choices. If you have a bias to the long side, you can simply buy the binary or the spread. If you have a bias to the short side, you can sell the binary or spread. And if you have a volatility-based bias, which means you really don't have a directional bias, then you can buy and sell the binary or spread with a limited risk. Now, a couple of things to remember. When you are buying the binary option, okay, that means that your bias is to the long side. Then you have a risk, and your risk is limited to what you pay on entry. Of course, there's always the potential for you to also lose, okay? In this case, you would lose what you pay when you enter if it does not expire in your favor. If you have a bias to the short side, again, you will incur risk, but you're only taking one side of the trade. That means if the market moves to the upside, you would lose what you paid on your short entry. Now, on a volatility-based bias, you pay two risks. You pay one on the long side, you pay one on the short side. And there is a potential, if the market does not move, that you could lose on both sides. Another scenario is that one side will make money. Let's say the long side makes money, and then the short side loses. So you have a profit on the long, you have a loss on the short. So it's very important to manage your risk and keep it under $40 so that you still have a potential for $60 in profit. That way, you always can cover the one that loses money. Now, let's take a look on how to do the volatility-based bias. Also remember, if your bias is to the long side, you would simply buy. If the bias is to the short side, you would simply sell. In this case, we're going to buy and sell because we have a volatility-based bias. Now, since we're going to be trading the non-farm employment change, I wanted to show you the actual historical moves based on data that I've gathered for the last 10 to 15 years. Now, this is immediately 15 minutes after the market report is released. So you can see that the USDJPY has an average of 84 pips, the USCAD 84 pips. Now this number tends to be bigger if we have the Canadian unemployment rate on the same day as the non-farm. today we do not have the Canadian unemployment rate announcement. The euro typically moves about 78 pips, and then gold typically moves 133 ticks. So today we will probably be focused on the USDJPY, gold, and we may do some on the USCAD. Hello, Patricia. I'm glad you could join us from Germany. Now, before we get started on the actual binary options and spread portion, I do want to give everyone my contact information. And my website is tradershelpdesk.com, and you can always email me at gm@tradershelpdesk.com. Now what I'd like to do is get started at looking at some of the binaries that we could potentially do. Now, before we get started this morning, I do just want to reiterate that this is for educational purposes only. And we're going to actually, the first one we're going to look at is gold. And I'm going to do the 8 to 10 a.m. I was wondering if there is any theory behind why those currencies move soon after the non-farm employment releases, or are they just observed trends? It's going to move because it affects the US dollar. That's the bottom line. The non-farm employment report is a measurement of how well the economy is doing. And of course, the US dollar is the economic report is going to affect the US dollar because it's the currency for the US, okay? All right, let's look at gold real quick, and I'm going to bring up the chart for gold. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to have a bias this morning, okay? I really don't care whether it moves up or whether it moves down as long as it moves. Now you can see that we have had a pretty much almost a reversal bar here. This is the lowest point. This confirmed the reversal, and then you have your bullish candlestick here. So what I'm looking for is a binary that I can get for less than $20 of risk. And as you can see, there's not one available where I can get less than $20 of risk. What does that mean for me? That means I will not trade that because I want to go in both directions, and I want my total risk to be less than $40 on both sides of the market. So let's go look at Forex binaries. And in this case, I'm going to look at the USDJPY, and I'm going to look at the 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. binary. Now, currently, the USDJPY is trading at 109.84. So I'm going to actually choose the 110.02, and I'm just going to do one contract. Now, notice this is to the long side. I'm also going to do one to the short side, and I'm going to do the 109. Let's do the 109.70. I don't want to get too far out just in case it doesn't move as much as I anticipate it will move, okay? Now, I've got both a long and a short position on. This is the long, this is the short. Now, because this market report moves so fast, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set a target. On the short, I'm going to set a target at 10. Because anytime we go short, we always want to go lower than the average price where we entered. Now, on the long position, I'm going to set a target at 90. Now, one thing I want to highlight when you're doing this, it's very important to look at your average price and your position. One of the biggest mistakes that new traders make with binary options is setting the wrong price. Now, notice on my short position, I have a profit target set at 10. Okay, So on this one, if I take 82, which was my entry price, and I subtract my profit target, if that profit target is achieved, then that tells me I have made $72. Does everybody understand that? Okay, on the long position, my average price was $17.25. My target is 90, okay? So if I take 90 and I subtract the 17.25, then that tells me that I have the potential of making $72.75. Okay? However, you still have to subtract the risk on the losing trade because one of these more than likely is going to lose money. Both of them could if the market does not move. But there's also a potential that one of these is going to lose money. So in this case, on the long side, if I subtract the $18 that I will potentially lose on the short, that still gives an overall profit of $54.75. Does everybody understand that? On the short side, we have to subtract the potential loss from the long position. In this case, I'm just going to round it to 17. And in this case, you can see that you're going to make about 55. Any questions? Now, let's see if we can potentially get one on the USCAD. Well, before we do that, let's check the spreads, okay? So on the USDJPY, if we go to the 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., price is currently trading at 109.85. So I'm going to choose the 109.9, and I'm going to simply click on the offer. You can see you have $15 of risk with a potential to make $85. I'm going to enter that one, and then I'm going to do a short. Again, I don't really have a bias as to which direction it's going to go, okay? In this case, you're going to risk $19 to potentially make 81. But remember, it would have to move the full width of the spread in order for you to achieve that $81. Now we can go and look at the USCAD. And again, I'm starting with the spreads. And in this case, the USDCAD is currently trading at 23.17. So if I wanted to enter that one right now, it would be $23 for a long position. And again, I don't have a bias, so I'm actually also going to do one to the short side. Oh, I did that one wrong. And this is one that I was not paying attention because I clicked the wrong one. I wanted to buy it. So this is one I actually want to get out of. So I'm going to go ahead and actually exit this position. Because I entered wrong. And I noticed that only because of the risk that I had when I entered the market. So if you click on this one, notice I had clicked on the buy. I needed to click on the sell. Now, do you see how this is $16 and $84? Okay, if I was clicking on the offer, do you see it was $86.14? I noticed that right after I clicked. So immediately I exited, and I'm going to go in the right direction, hopefully. So that's the spreads on the USCAD. Now let's go up and see if there's any binaries. Notice on the binaries you have 8 to 10 a.m. That is because the first 2-hour binary on the USCAD is 8 a.m. Again, look at the indicative prices trading at 23.16, which is this strike. Now, I do not want to risk a lot on this trade. So I'm going to go down to 22.87. You see it's got $19 of risk. It's probably going to have 20. And I'm also going to go up to see if I can get one on the upside. In this case, I'm going to choose the $15 mark. And again, I've got to go and set profit targets on these. Now notice this is the short, so I'm going to set a $10 target. And then on the long position, I'm going to set a $90 target. Okay? Now, your total risk, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trades on. Your total risk right now is about $130. Okay? So, let's go back and let's just check on the gold to see if anything has changed, because gold typically does move quite a bit off of this report. So again, I'm going to go to gold. We're trading at 13.49, which is here. But as you can see, this still has not come down low enough for me to enter a trade. If I was to enter the 13.44, that's about 5 points away from where it's currently trading. I don't really want to be 5 points away. So I'm just going to sit here and watch these. We can go and look at the spreads to see if there's spreads that would be conducive. And again, this is what I call shopping around. So in this case, if I was to buy gold, your risk would be $19, okay? Now, let's see if we can also go to the short side. And the short side is going to be $29. Does everybody understand this? So in this case, I don't see it very conducive to do a binary, but I was able to get a spread with a combined risk of basically less than $50. Okay? Now, could you lose on every one of these positions? Yes, you could. If the market does not move, and there are times that the market does not move, then yes, you could lose on all of these positions. Do y'all understand that? Now, could you build even more binaries off of this? Yes, you could. You know, you could use the 11 a.m. daily expirations. You could use the 3 p.m. expirations, okay? But remember, we're expecting this market to move. The most will be the 15 minutes immediately after the market report, which is why I have limited my binaries to 9. There are times, and I have seen this happen, where it moves from 8:30 to 8:45, but not as much as you would want. So having the 10 a.m. expiration actually works better for you. Again, it just depends on which kind of market action we see today. And again, I'm just trading averages here. Now, another thing that I always check, I've got 4 spreads here, and then I've got another 2 here. So I have a total of 6 spreads. Now, I do not put targets on the spreads. Instead, I watch the profit and loss, and then I exit when I think it might go the other way. Okay? Now, what I do want to make sure is that I have the same number of working orders as the binaries in the open positions. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And I always come down here to say 1, 2, 3, 4. The reason that I do that is when the market report comes out, if it moves really fast in your direction, then you have the potential to get these targets filled, okay? And if you watch the premiums on these, they will jump around like crazy during the market report. You know, I've seen it go from 70 to 50, back to 80, back to 60. You know, it just fluctuates tremendously. So that's the reason that I set my profit targets. Now, does anybody have any questions before the market report actually comes out? And I'm just going to put up a gold chart. And it's not unusual to see all of this just go blank when this market report comes out. It's typical. So I'm just going to expand this so we can see it. And I tend to focus actually on the actual chart. And then I'm going to bring over the USDJPY chart. And we have about 12 minutes. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask them. The other thing that I also look at is how far out of the money am I? Okay, price is currently trading at 23.14. Let's use this one, the USCAD. I have the 22.87 strike. Price is currently trading at 23.15. Okay, so that's basically about 30 pips away. Okay. And that's within reason because remember, it typically moves 80. On the USDJPY, we're at 109.89. So on this one, we're about 20 pips away. Just about 20 pips away on the upside as well. Does NFP always have an impact on these assets, or could it just stay the same? You know, it's a market report. Anything could happen. I have seen mainly on the euro, sometimes you do not get a lot of movement, okay? But typically on the USDJPY, you do, okay? But again, I don't like to use the word always because the market will do whatever the market wants to do, okay? If the market just wants to stand there, it'll just stand there. And I've seen days like that. Usually, you know, more towards July, it wouldn't have as much impact. But again, yeah, it could happen. Patricia Gold is actually one of the largest movers for this report and has been for a long time. The indices typically do not move as much, which is why you don't see me placing trades on them. And it's also not unusual to see a lot of these all go positive, okay? What do you mean? Do I have the orders open right now? I typically enter my orders about 15 minutes before the market report for Nundo. I don't use anything that's automated. I just don't believe trading is as easy as automating it. So it's a personal belief. Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of the economists about, where the market's going to go today. Either I rely on my indicators or I do something like this, which, is pretty much considered delta neutral. What you're hoping for is it will move one way or the other. In this case, as long as it moves, then I'm okay. Do I ever trade the event binary for non-farm employment? I've traded it a couple of times, but I'd really rather trade the currencies or the actual Forex pair. I just think, it's a higher probability to actually trade the currency. Ironically, you're getting hidden divergence on the NFP. This was your last low, so you're making higher lows but lower lows in the stochastics. That's indicative that it would go up. Now, typically, there is an inverse between the USDJPY and gold. I have on occasion seen them go in the same direction, but typically it is an inverse relationship. So if gold goes up, the USDJPY typically will come down, or if the USDJPY is going up, then gold is typically going down, okay? So in this case, with the hidden divergence, if this goes up, then I would anticipate this to go down. But again, that's just generals, concepts. The euro. Yeah, it could, but we'll see. Yeah, it seems to be holding in that congestion pattern at the moment on the 15-minute chart, Patricia. But again, the euro will move off of the report typically, but your biggest movers are usually the USDJPY and the USCAD. Now again, the CAD typically will move more when the Canadian unemployment coincides with the non-farm employment. And a lot of times what you will see, and gold might do this, where it spikes down and then it goes right back up. It's not unusual to see that. Sometimes it moves so fast that your targets are not filled. Okay, so there's all kinds of things that can happen when you're trading this report. And sometimes, and gold is a great example where, I was not comfortable with the risk that was on the binaries. So I just turned around and traded the spreads. And that does happen sometimes. I look very closely at the price that I'm going to pay. For example, right now on the euro, it's trading at 24.92. Okay, that's this strike. And I would have to come down to 24.72 to get a short. But again, I want to be kind of neutral on this. So I also want to do one to the upside. And again, just looking at the different binaries that you have available, I'm going to do a long here. Now, what do I need to do? Well, I need to go back and place profit targets on these. So on the short, I'm placing a $10 target. That is on the short. And then on the long, I'm going to place a $90 target. So I did enter an additional 2. So I need to have 6 working orders, which I now have. Patricia, was that trading the actual spot Forex? I would never trade spot Forex during this report. I just wouldn't do it. I don't trade Forex, not the spot side, during any market report. And this, guys, is what fascinated me to no ends when I found binary options and spreads, because I was one. I mean, you just don't trade spot Forex when there is a market report. I mean, not unless you want to lose a lot of money, because a market report the market will do whatever it wants to do. And being able to actually participate in a market report was so unbelievable to me. And I love doing it, but it's because I have limited risk. You cannot be stopped out of a binary. You pay your risk on entry, and you can never lose more than what you paid on entry. And there are no stops. These are profit targets. Notice I don't have any stops. I don't worry about stops. You know, and you saw on gold, it's a great example. Remember, we were looking at the gold binary, and I said, no, I don't like the risk on these. So what did I do? I didn't enter a trade. In other words, if you cannot live with the risk, if the risk is not acceptable, then you do not trade it. You do not enter it. And you saw me do that on gold. I said, no, I'm not paying that much on gold. Now, this is the market report. Do y'all see that? And this is the USDJPY. Do y'all see how fast that market is moving? Now, this is what you have to watch. What I'm watching is the current market price. Right now, this is at 47. I have a stop at 10. Not a stop, but a profit target. Over here, you can see the long position is at 78. My profit target is at 90. Do y'all understand that? Now, does that mean I could not come over here and say, hey, I've made enough money, I'm going to exit? You could, okay? Again, I look at these numbers and say, okay, how close to this is my actual position, okay? Now, remember, on the spreads, I don't have targets in, okay? And I'm going to pull this off so I can pull this up. And again, you see that you're at 85, 86, okay? You want it to get to 90. You're about $3 away, okay? Could you go in here right now on the one that says 90? Could you say, okay, I'm good. You know, I'm what, $2.50 away. I'm going to go ahead and exit that and lock my profits in, okay? That's all it takes to exit that position. If you look at the USCAD, it's 23.47. You're about 5 ticks away. But do you see your current market is about 37 to 40? Okay, I've got a long way for that to go, but that's also out to 10 a.m. Okay, you see the euro dollar 24.72, currently at 25. I've got my target at 10. Okay, could you go in and exit that one? Sure, you could even keep this up and say, okay, if it starts going back the other way, I'll exit. You know, that's your prerogative, okay? On the gold, okay, you're at 41, okay? Now remember, you had $19 of risk on this side. So could you exit this and still be profitable? Sure. All you have to do is click. Remember, I didn't have a target on these. And say, okay, I'm going to take profits at 43 and place the order, and you locked in your profits. On this one, you had $18 of risk. Now you've covered that. Can we get a little bit more? Well, you can wait and see. And this is where, you know, I'll bring in the chart and say, hey, it doesn't look like there's any reversal on that. I'm hanging on to that a little bit. Okay. That would be your trade management component. Okay. You're still waiting for this one to get above your strike. Okay. But again, remember, this is at expiration at 10 a.m. Could you exit and still have profits? Well, your risk on this one was $20. You've made 32. So you're still up about 10 to 15 right now. Now on the euro dollar, that was the last one that we entered. We're up 65. Always look to see what your risk was. It was 18. So you can come out of that, but you've still made, you know, about $40. It's $1 a side. That's the exchange rate. So you're paying $2 round trip, okay? And, you know, it's, to me, fairly easy to cover that $2. Yeah, it's really cheap. You can see the euro, you're about $6, $5.50 away. So you could say, well, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and lock that profit in. You know, you got another 25 minutes. Do you really want to lose what you have made? Now, do you see how this is jumping around? You want to make sure that you're not clicking on the higher end that it's jumping around. Okay. Now, on the USCAD, okay, you've only got about 23 minutes left, and it's not moving as much as we thought it would, okay? So can you cover the cost of this trade? Well, yeah, I could. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit this one, okay? And that one's going to be just about break even, okay? I'm still hoping that this USD JPY goes up a little bit more, you know, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. The USCAD, 1 pip above where our strike is. 5 half pips, 4 half pips. And these are the things that I monitor, okay? Now, if there is any doubt, you can always go in and simply go ahead and exit your trade, okay? Does everybody understand that? It depends on whether you're long or short, and it wouldn't make sense to do what you're asking. If it's near the strike, then that means that the price would be somewhere between 45 and 55. It wouldn't be at $1. Okay, in this case, the USDJPY is starting to come back down, okay? And this is when I go over to the chart and say, is that really going to go down? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go over to a 5-minute chart and see what the 5-minute is telling me. Maybe it is overextended, and it is. This is what we consider a wide bar, so it could retrace back down to about 110.08, okay? So in this case, I don't really like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit that spread. Now I'm going to actually lose just a little bit on that spread, and I'm okay with that, okay? The Canadian is finally starting to plug in and make some money. I use hidden divergence as the momentum. Remember, I showed you on the 15-minute, there was hidden divergence, Patricia? That's the momentum tool I use. Now, just because I want to show you whether we made a profit or not, I'm going to go ahead and exit the USCAD. And this is the one that is profitable, which is 23.47. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to sell it here, okay? So now all of the positions that I have on are the losing positions. Does everybody understand that? Now, did we make a profit for the day? Well, what I'm going to do is go to the history, go to transactions, and I'm going to say the last 6 hours, and I'm going to download the history, okay? And then I'm going to open it, and it's going to open in Excel. Now notice on this one, this has all of the positions that I did for the day, okay? And it also has your exchange fees. See, your fee payment and everything is in there. I'm going to go right down to the bottom, and I'm just going to auto sum it. So the profit for the day was $147.50 after all losses and all exchange fees were deducted. Does everybody understand that? And that's trading one contract. How stressful was this trade? You know, you just went in both directions. You didn't have to do a lot of analysis or anything. You just said, hey, I don't know where it's going to go, so let's just go both directions. But we looked at the risk, okay? There were some that had risk that just was not acceptable, okay? And then other ones that were. Binary options do not use stops because you pay the risk on entry. Okay? And if I cannot live with the risk, then I do not do the trade. Okay? For example, if I could not afford to lose $18, then you don't take the trade. Okay? And again, most of these were around 18 to 20. Here's 18, here's 20. Okay? If I couldn't live with that risk, then I should not have been in the trade. And I have seen there are times, just like this one on the USDCAD, okay? And this is a short position. I have seen it where it would go right straight back down and actually make money on both sides. I've had that happen, okay? All I needed was movement, okay? We knew on average we would get the movement during this market report. We have this opportunity every month. First Friday of every month is non-farm employment, okay? Every Friday, 8:30 in the morning. Would I do June and July? No, because a lot of people are actually on vacation. Sometimes it doesn't move as much. Any questions? They were subtracted, Patricia, because all of these, do you see how it says negative here? That means you're at full loss. And they are calculated in here already, okay? For example, let's look at the euro dollar 25.12, okay? That was one of the last positions we did. Here it is right here. Do you see how that's already subtracted right here? So all the losses are already subtracted. And all I did was total it at the bottom because I've already taken profits. Okay. And all I did was click on the sum total icon. And I clicked here and then clicked here. It automatically did it for me. Do I have a webinar for my Excel? No, I do not. But it's actually pretty easy if you just go back and watch this video, Russell. You can do it fairly easy. It's just, to me, the easiest way to figure out whether you made a profit for the day. Any other questions? If there's no other questions, I would like to thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you learned something. I do have a market volatility report, Anthony, that is given away free in my live trading room on, I think it's every other Tuesday. You can download it if you join the webinar. And you just visit my website and it gives you the link to join that. Yeah, I'm thinking about writing another book on spreads specifically, Patricia. Because I find a lot of traders, they do want to use spreads, but they don't understand when to use the spreads. All right. I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation, and most importantly, I hope you learned something. And again, if you have any questions, you can always send me an email at gm@tradershelpdesk.com.